Coins are, of course, going to be better in that long run, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't pick up bars of silver like I have here, this 1 kilo bar. And when I do see them come up for sale, that's when I snap them up, because you don't see them often. And for us in the UK, that could represent a potential interesting item for somebody to buy down the line. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a warm welcome to you all joining us for this week's edition of In Focus Friday, the show where we take a good close look at cool things made of silver or gold. And this week we are going to be showcasing a brand new addition to my melt stack, or I guess you could call it the I'm going to hold on to it for as long as I possibly can before I have to melt it stack. It's another very cool kilo piece of silver purchased from the Silver Forum. This is the kind of silver I like to buy, and it's not the kind of silver that we here in the United Kingdom get to buy very often, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go throughout the video as well. But I thought it would be a pretty cool piece to showcase here on the channel. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I bought it from a seller on the Silver Forum, which hardly needs any introduction if you know the Silver Forum, Arshimo. He sells so much stuff that is cool, so much stuff that is great value, and it's well worth joining the forum sales sales threads just to see what he is going to have come up next. Because when I saw this, I saw the patterns, I saw the look, I saw just how awesome it was, and I jumped on it. I'm not going to lie, I got my melt budget and I jumped on it. And it's always nice to have kind of a melt budget for me where I can purchase silver that I'm going to put aside one day for melting. Whether that means I'm going to chop this bar up in its own right and melt it, would be a bit of a shame if I did that, or whether I just use this kilo to swap out for other meltable coins, for example, or meltable silver down the line. But it allows me to at least purchase some silver now to get that secure in the vault, so to speak, in that melt stash, so that we can use it at a later date. So Arshimo is a quality seller. I've bought quite a lot from him over my time on the Silver Forum. I would highly recommend him, so go and check out the Silver Forum and Arshimo. I'll try and put links down below. But what really attracted me to this bar is just the unique awesomeness of its patterns, its cooling patterns. Of course, it's a cast bar, so what that means is that there was a mold, and the silver was put into the mold and then melted, and it's just formed in the way it has. It could have been that way, or I'm looking at the striations here, and I'm also feeling like there could have been a situation where it was exceptionally hot, created in a mint, created in a an environment where you can get the silver to 13, 14, 1500 degrees C, put in the mold, and it stays liquid for so long that it just ultimately settled and cooled incredibly slowly to create these patterns. There are very many different ways of creating kilos or kilo bars of silver, and the Swiss Bank Corporation bar here could have been either one. So if anybody's got a kind of insight exactly how perhaps they were made, that would be really interesting. Now, I absolutely love this, and I am surprised that it was left up on the forum for the good 30 minutes that it was before I picked it up, because it was a very, very good price for this particular bar of silver, which, for those of you who've seen in the background, our little certificate of authenticity here that came with it, it's not a modern young bar. I mean, it's modern by the grand scheme of things, but 1993, 27 years old almost, and that is quite the vintage bar in kind of modern bullion terms. And it is sort of a nice piece of kind of history. Swiss gold, Swiss silver has that kind of lure to it, that history to it. Has some bad history to it, some negative connotations throughout history too, not going to lie, but it's seen as that kind of, the Swiss vaults, that's where the most secure vaults are. Now the COA's seen better days, but it is what it is. I'm not really too bothered about the COA. It's one of those things that I'll keep. If ever I do look to trade this out and sell it, it'll be a nice little addition to the piece of the bar itself. But whether this will add significant amount of value to this as a collector's item, it's very unlikely to do so. When Arshimo priced this, it was priced, in fact, I think better than some of the kilo modern Metalors or other things like that you can purchase out there. So it really wasn't sold as a collector's item. Not entirely convinced that this is going to be a collector's item down the line. The only semblance of way that I could see it being any form of collectible is that the beautiful patterns that are on it might be quite attractive for some people. But beyond that, yeah, I think it's just a bar of silver for me, and that's quite happily going to sit in my melt stash and be used in the future, as I said, either to be chopped up and melted or to be exchanged out and have other silver. Now, another interesting thing about it was when I received it, I probably should have left it to do it on the video here, but it was incredibly toned. And what I mean by that, there was all of the sort of blackness on one side here, and I think there's just a few remnants of that here on this sort of, kind of, what's the word? This sort of textured part here on the front. A little bit of toning still in there, but on the sides it was almost black. You can see a little bit of the remnants up here as well. I just literally got my silver polish out and I gave it a good polishing, and you could get it even higher shine than this, even so, than using some silver polish. You just use some silver dip, for example, or anything. But I've just polished it up, cleaned it up, so that I can enjoy it more for what it is. And this is going to sit on my desk for the next couple of weeks as my fondle piece, so to speak. I say my carry piece. I wouldn't take it out and about with me, but my carry piece while I'm in the house, so to speak. But yeah, I think it's lovely. I really do, and it's the kind of silver I like to buy right now, certainly so. And the reason for that is that we don't get very many bars here in the United Kingdom or even in the European Union. Now, I know that might sound strange considering I make bars of silver, poured silver for me and for the channel and for everything that we do. But in terms of just like investment bars, kilo bars, we don't get very many of them at all. And the reason for that is taxes, because they are not coins. We can't buy them from Europe and get advantaged rates of VAT because they're still taxed, and in the UK that would be taxed as well. So you do not see them a great deal. A lot of the bars that do exist have been stuck in vaults for ages and ages and ages. And there was a really interesting post I saw on the Silver Forum from somebody who had bought a bunch of silver bars, kilo bars, and they were in a vault with a bullion dealer. And then he went to cash out, he went to look to sell them, and the dealers were going to give him an awful price and also then subtract VAT at the point of sale. So there was this huge swing for this person, and he kind of quickly realized perhaps that's not the best thing. So maybe taking physical delivery of the items and then looking to actively go out and sell on his own right might be better. And that's pretty much the story of kilo bars in the UK, and bars generally, big bars of silver in the UK. They're often representing a real novel thing. People think, oh yeah, the best way to invest in silver is a big bar. But in the UK, it's really not. That is just a bit of a fallacy in all honesty. It's very much about coins for us here in the United Kingdom and the EU as well. So coins are, of course, going to be better in that long run, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't pick up bars of silver like I have here, this 1 kilo bar. And when I do see them come up for sale, that's when I snap them up, because you don't see them often. And for us in the UK, that could represent a potential interesting item for somebody to buy down the line. As I said, I'm going to be keeping this for as long as possible until I have to melt it, or sell it to melt it. But even if I do have to sell it to melt it, I would like to think that it's going to perhaps give me or yield me at least a decent return on where it was compared with buying some junk silver coins, for example. So there's a whole different way of thinking and school of thought about this compared with, say, the United States, where something like this would be a dime a dozen. You'd be able to buy a kilo bar of silver from a great many different sources at a very good price, and you'd be able to just stick that in your stack, and then at one point in the future you'd be able to sell it and get your cash out very easily. But buying these kind of things from a dealer is very difficult, is not easy. And I'm surprised as well that more dealers out there don't sell these second-hand, which is essentially what people like Arshimo and others on the Silver Forum do. They'll find these, they'll buy them on the second-hand, what's called the second-hand margin scheme. So you won't have VAT on it, you won't have sales tax on it, you'll only have a very, very small proportion of tax on the profit margin that somebody's making. And often on these kind of things, the profit margin that anybody would make, any dealer would make on these, is going to be slim. It's only going to be 3, 4, 5% maximum, depending on the item, of course. There will be more collectibles that will get more, I'm not going to lie, but ultimately the profit margins are so low that the taxes are also low for the individual. But that doesn't happen as often as you'd think. You see a lot of dealers that have second-hand listings on pages, and there aren't very many things like this. Bit of a shame, but that's okay, because we have people like Arshimo on the Silver Forum who sell wondrous things like this. So if you've not done so already, then head on over to the Silver Forum, check out the sales listings section. You do have to register as a paid member to get access to the sales listings as they happen in real time. Otherwise, there's a 3-day lag, and as I can attest, these kind of items, they don't stick around for longer than a couple of hours usually, depending on the price, but they don't stick around for a couple of hours. They'll go. I'll snap them up if nobody else will. If there's a good kilo bar of silver and it's in my melt budget and it's in a good seller's hands like Archimo, there's a good chance that someone like me is going to snap it up quite quickly. Having said that, I do get beaten to the punch quite a lot by a lot of other people, and it's not uncommon for me to feel a little bit salty when somebody else gets a really good deal, because there are some pieces that I see go up for sale where I'm like, not only would that be incredible to own, but it would make a fantastic video. And so anyway, that's my kind of way of thinking and how I go about accumulating more kind of weight for the business side of things in my my life, but also to have as something that the business could potentially hold and exchange out for more value over time. Bit of a hedge for both, and it is what it is. For those of you, by the way, who are wondering how I might ever melt this, a pair of very large bolt cutters would go through this like butter. Maybe one day if we do chop up one of these bars, we'll show it, but it would be a crying shame to do it for something that looks so beautiful as this. So it'd be very interesting to know down in the comment section, those of you who would be interested to see a kilo bar like this being chopped up. Or do you think that would be sacrilege? Do you think this should be kept in its form for posterity? It's already 27 years old. Shall we let it get much, much older before one day it will end up being melted? And that's the fate of nearly all silver one day, let's be honest. Like bullion coins, bullion bars, whatever it might be, one day it's probably going to get chopped up, melted, repurposed into technology or into another form. It's just the circle of life in a bar of silver anyway. But anyway, look, that is today's episode of In Focus Friday. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this bar down in that comment section. Give us a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed the Swiss Bank Corporation 3 keys there and this beautiful, beautiful patterned bar. I think it's wonderful. I love it, and it's going to certainly sit for a long time in my stash. If you've not subscribed to our channel, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. We are ever marching forward to 30,000 subscribers, and we are in with a shout at doing it before the end of the year. And if we do get to 30,000 subs, then before the end of the year, we're going to have a pretty epic giveaway, let me tell you. So please do hit the subscribe button. Over 70% of the views on this channel are made by people who don't subscribe or who are not subscribed. So make sure you subscribe. And otherwise, that's it. Have a fantastic week ahead. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.